Welcome to your first day of class, everyone. I'm Marketing Communications Manager Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we're here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we designed this webinar that will cover all the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let's introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro. He joined Trident in 2010 and currently serves as a department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and for student motivation. Next, we have Tasha Cureton. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as Senior Manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member of the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. She's a Trident alum graduating from the Master of Arts in Education program and is currently a Doctor of Education student. Just a few notes before we begin today's session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Find the questions box, type in your question, hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions and we'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment, and so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is, how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end, so stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is, know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun, and this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you, it's not to be upset with you, it's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed, and that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably built, hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you could manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning. So I'd always ask your teacher, but the key is I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet, and I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class, and then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your Module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple of days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the new session. Everyone, just give us a second while we tidy up and get things ready to go to address your questions. We have a few in, actually I have a few in already. I'm going to put the slide deck back up on the screen for you guys. Hopefully everyone had a good, had a good long Labor Day weekend as well, relaxing. So here we go. And let's see, we got Tasha online, we have Sergio online, and I think we're ready to go. I don't know if I can hear you guys. You want to test it out real quick?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
Great. And so, Sergio, we're going to start off with you today. And first question is, does Trident have any scholarships designed for the members of the military?
Yes, we do, and we have 8 right now that we actually work with the military members that we can assist them with, it depending on what degree they have, they pursuing, and what certificate they are pursuing as well. So we have 8 of those, which is I can mention those to you. Is one of them is the Military Success Scholarship, which is for undergraduate degrees. And we have the William Gain Scholarship, which is another one that we use for master's degrees and ISS certificate. And we have the Army Women's Foundation Scholarship, which is for bachelor's and master's. And we have the Trident Alumni Scholarship, which is for all graduates, doctoral degrees, and business analytics certificates. That's 4 of them. We got the Trident Visiting Student Scholarship, which is for undergraduate courses and non-degree seeking. And we got Professional Certificate Diploma Assistant Grant, which is for former students who were enrolled in a certificate or diploma program at Trident. So we assist them with that. The last 2, which I think are the ones that we actually use the most, is the Military Educational Grant, which is like 40% of savings of tuition for undergraduate courses and 43% for graduate courses, and 14 and 19% for doctoral courses. And that's for the Military Education Grant. And then for the Veteran Education Grant, that's another one that we use for veterans, me being part of that degree plan, and those students that are veterans. We got 20% of savings of tuition for the undergraduate courses and 25% for the graduate courses, 10 and 11% for doctoral courses. And that will end all the scholarship that we have for Trident.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for all that detail. And that's all that stuff is on our website. We can send that link around it. But I think just a follow-up question from me, since the military TA year, the end of the TA, or not TA, excuse me, fiscal year is coming up, excuse me.
Yes.
Wanted to talk specifically about the MSS, Military Success Scholarship, and the Giogany. Tasha, would you be willing to talk a bit more about those scholarships and how they, can benefit students who may have exhausted their TA?
Sure. And I'm going to keep it pretty simple, but basically the idea of these scholarships for anybody on this webinar who should be, if you're an associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree, and you run out of your tuition assistance for the year, the key to accessing William Giogany or Military Success Scholarship is that you want to, 1, make sure you're active duty, 2, that you've used all of your tuition assistance at Trident for the fiscal year, and then 3, you want to make sure that you're enrolled in those classes so that they can apply the scholarship too. So if you're in good standing, meaning you're not on academic warning, your GPA is meeting the requirement that it needs to, then what it can do is it can cover, once you run out of TA, up to 50% of each of those classes. So Military Success Scholarship specifically, but William Giogany does it similarly, just a little bit different. So the idea is keep going. It's meant to fill in that time when you run out of TA and the new fiscal year is coming, which is right now, essentially.
And if you have any additional questions on that, reach out to your advisor. And for those of you who are so new, you may not know who your advisor is, reach out to us and we'll get that information for you. And next question for you, Tasha, and the question is, what grade do I need to get to pass orientation?
Wonderful, because I'm the orientation facilitator. So there's no grade. It's not a required class. What we find is students who go into orientation typically have a higher success rate in their first class, which is usually tux unless you're in a master's degree. The only thing that has a semblance of a grade is going to be your Module 5 SLP, and that's the practice Dropbox. So I was in there this morning. Everything that I've seen come in for this session is graded, and typically it's just kind of a practice grade in there. The key that I would say with that is to make sure that when you upload an assignment there, that the assignment is viewable, because that's the whole purpose, right? Is once you get into your other course, you want to make sure that there's no issues, that your teachers can grade your assignments. There's also additional practice assignments that don't have grades attached to them. Again, it's not required, it's a good practice, is participating in the discussions, getting a feel for how to post in there and interact with your peers. I love seeing people in orientation respond to other peers and introducing themselves and commenting on some of the topics in there. Oh, one thing too is that we get a question that comes up a lot is, you know, after you've completed orientation, why is it still showing as a course on there? And that's because you have access to it for up to 6 months from the time you start your program, or if you're returning after being away for a year or starting a new program, you have access to it for that 6 months. So it's not that you need to be participating after that, but you can use the resources.
Great, thank you. And I'm going to go to you, Sergio, for next question. But before I do that, just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. You can type those in the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Go about halfway down. You'll see a questions box. Type it, submit it, and we'll take care of it for you. So Sergio, question for you. For a new student, this is their first session and first time they've taken a class in more than a decade. Do you have some advice for them on things they can be doing to really start out strong?
Yes. The best thing for me, especially for me when I'm actually supporting my students, is for them to look at the whole curriculum first before they actually answer any questions. So you look at everything, all the modules and all the discussions, you know how your course is going to be like before you can actually start typing anything up and submitting. That's very important. I mean, we tend not to read in the military a lot, so we actually get to go by, you know, accomplishing the mission. And that's one thing that I actually tell my students all the time before they actually submit their assignments. That's one of the things, especially when they're coming back from a year off. It's like the understanding is a little different. Maybe the methods of submitting assignments is a little different that we're using in the university. So I like them to actually understand first and then actually write something down before they submitting their assignments.
Can I jump in and add to that too? Because I thought that was great advice. And
yeah, sure, run with it.
And Sergio, I know we're both alumni at Trident too. One of the things that I want to remind everybody on here that as a Trident student, you get access to Microsoft Office 365 for free. So be sure to contact your advisor if you're not sure how to download that or get that set up, because something I see a lot in the practice submissions is people don't realize they have that, because you do need to be uploading your assignments in usually with Microsoft Word in that format. And so take advantage of it now and download it and prepare that. You saw I gave some tips in the webinar as well. But one thing that I see a lot with students when they come in is not taking that time to really set up the due dates on their calendars and reminders and carving out time. And so I do see people do that, but I see the students, I should reiterate, students who I feel like maybe are feeling like flustered or they're falling behind is because they're not kind of managing themselves to say, okay, you know what, tonight, like I can't go out with you, or maybe I have to miss that thing because I have school tonight. And when you start to tell people how important it is to you and your support group, then they start to respect, you know what, like tonight's school night, like you got to do your thing. I want to support you in being successful. And so include those people, but then, don't waver. If that's the time you've set aside, make that time sacred so that you can feel like you're being successful as well.
Great. Thank you, Tasha. And stay with you for threaded discussions. Do they also need to be completed in APA format?
Great question. Typically, it should be treated like a mini essay. We use APA format as our primary formatting. It's recommended to do it, and a lot of instructors will expect that. I would say strive to submit it in APA formatting. If you are at the master's level, it's pretty much expected. If you're an associate's or undergrad, maybe it's your first time posting ever for a college, don't stress so much on the formatting. Just get the information in. Make sure you're meeting the word requirements, which is usually 150 to 100 words depending. So introduce the idea, have a well formatted post. Don't just, I see people will sometimes think, oh, it's a forum, right? Like on Facebook in a group, you're just chatting, it's really casual. I would challenge yourself to step back, proofread it. There are proofreading tools in the discussions as well, where you can spell check, because that is actually an academic assignment rather than like a chat. And so you want to make sure that you give it that respect, right, before you submit it. And so if you do cite external sources, it is recommended to do APA formatting. But in your first few classes, it's not going to be as adhered to, I guess.
Yeah, and to add on to that is that I would, not sure if Tasha mentioned this, but I would recommend that even though it is a forum, write out your response in Word first and copy it over. And I've been at Trident for a decade, and there's one of the reasons is always new experiences. And this week, new experience for me is that I'm teaching a class, and the first, at the bachelor's level, the first threaded discussion submission I saw, I could tell that the person did that because it was well written, and the APA formatting was really on point. So it was really impressive. So, and that's a good way to stand out. And I can already say this is that people who do that are going to make my life easier as an instructor.
But if this is your first time, like an associate's or bachelor's like degree, I wouldn't stress so much about the formatting, but that's great advice, especially from a faculty member perspective. Today, I think just open up the Word document, type it in there because it will have the word count, and submit it, and then hone it as you go along, for sure.
Yeah, and to go back to something that Dr. Del Hierro said during the writing portion of this is that the goal is not perfection. The goal is to work towards perfection incrementally. That wasn't the exact quote, but it's a good paraphrase of it, is that, perfection is that, is often the distance, and you want to make those steps each and every module to get better. So,
yes. And I got something on that, Daniel, as well.
Sure, go ahead.
If you allow me to. So basically, I get a lot of that as well. I mean, the students just reaching back to me saying, I didn't get the grade that I was expecting. But the point of that is for you to have a room for improvement. So especially those first ones coming back, associates, and they actually trying to figure out how to put things together and how to write, it's very important for them to understand that the professor, the faculty advisor is gonna allow you to make mistakes so he can build you up to become that, A student, overall. So that's very important for them to understand. And that's one thing that I do with my students, especially after that very first week when they submit that first assignment, just to calm them down and keep them calm and let them know that everything is going to be okay.
And this is a good segue. And so last question, but Sergio, do you have any advice on how to tackle a course for the first time as a brand new student while on active duty?
Of course. I mean, I did it my whole 4 years at Trident as a student before I became, got my bachelor's degree. I tackle it just by being very proactive. So, like you said, writing things down, having them on the calendar is very important for me. Understanding, that assignment, how long it's going to take. Pre-reading the assignment, so actually I can understand what I'm going to work on before I even execute. That's very important for me, and that's how I tackle it most of the times. I always pre-write everything down, do a rough draft of what the assignment could look like after I see the assignment, and that helped me to actually get good grades and actually perform and make that life easier for the faculty advisor to understand what I'm trying to accomplish on that assignment.
And sort of a follow-up on that, I'm going to send this to you, Tasha, is that for students who may struggle with writing, haven't done it in a while or whatever, are students able to submit content to faculty members, to take a look at it before they do their official submission?
Great question. So we have what we call a practice Dropbox in the classroom. It's usually when you go to your table of contents or your content page, and it lists all the modules. Right below the syllabus should say practice Dropbox. That will not go to your faculty members, but that will go to a resource where you can see, did I get how do I say this? Is the originality score where it's not being flagged for originality working? That's a great place to practice submitting. But as far as a teacher reviewing it, I would say if you're in a Tux class, I would ask your instructor. They're typically open because they know this is the student's first class to reviewing it. They might say, put it in the Dropbox, I'll review it, and maybe I'll let you resubmit the assignment. Typically at Trident, though, that is not a practice. And I would just use some of the features that we have, like, spell check, the practice Dropbox, and for Tux, just using your instructor. I just don't want people to have the expectation that, a few classes into the program that they can keep submitting that to instructors for feedback, because the purpose is submit what you have for the grade and then see the feedback as an opportunity for the next one, or if they allow you, like if it's just something totally unreadable or just totally off base, in the associates and bachelors, they may give you the opportunity to resubmit that, rework it. So it's not always the end all once you submit it. There's my very long answer.
Yeah, and the build off of that is that, and this is coming from someone who has, very good writer. I've written professionally for always proofread your work. And that means get in a quiet room and mouth it out to yourself very quietly, because everything I ever write, I find an error when I'm doing that, because a lot of times what I write, it's what I intended to go on the paper, but it's not actually what happens, because I might write quickly. And Another thing to check out that is helpful, and this is advice shared from our Career Center manager, Dr. James Shiver, is that there's something in Word where you can have basically the document read back to you in a computer voice, and that's another way to kind of catch those errors. You might have typed, R instead of R, O-U-R, A-R-E, or something like that, and it helps you pick up on those things. So, and yeah, that looks like all the questions we have. If there's anything else, please submit them, because we'll collect all the questions and we'll review everything afterwards. And so those questions hanging out there, we will get back to you on those. But I want to thank everyone for their help today, for their attendance. Thank you, Tasha. Thank you, Sergio. And we're going to hand things off to Sergio. He's going to end things with a very special student success story. So good luck, everyone, this session. And hope to see you on graduation day. Floor is yours, Sergio.
Got it, Daniel. Thank you very much. So the success story for today is going to be basically my own as a student when I was in the drill field, 2012, 2015. I was basically dealing with a lot of issues, training recruits, and my whole schedule was really packed. So when I said packed, that means that I didn't have any time for anything. I was going to school during that time. So in that transition, I was able to reach out to the staff to help me out with the things that I needed to do for me to actually conquer my education goals, which was getting my bachelor's. And I'm gonna tell you that the support that I got, the never quit mindset, messages that I received from the staff, it was awesome. Long story short, I was able to pass my classes during that period of those 2 sessions that I was in there with, and basically it helped me out a lot to actually become the person that I am today, and understanding for all of you that are out there starting today that nothing is impossible. The more you actually try and put it in your mind, it's gonna get done. And that never quit mindset should never leave your body. That's one thing that I tell all my veterans, all my active duty members, all my students now as a faculty at Trident, and it will get you to the top. I will see all of you hopefully on graduation date, and I'm going to see you making a difference in this world that needs it so much. So thank you very much. Welcome to Trident, and I'm excited to see all of you conquer your education goals at the end of this session. Congratulations. Thank you.